It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
Hit it.
To infinity and beyond!
Get off, Napoleon. Make yourself a dang quesadilla.
I know Kung Fu.
This is one doodle that can't be undid, Holmes Gillett.
And my axe.
This should be open because it's civil rights. This is the 90s.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
1.21 gigawatts!
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear.
Gucci.
Hello and welcome to the KendallCast Movie Roundtable. I'm your host Kendall. With me as always is Ian.
Even I forgot who I am.
And Nick.
Once again, hello.
Take three. You know, we don't do the false starts as much as some. I've definitely had shows that have a lot of false starts, and we're usually pretty good about this. But yeah, had some things. Anyway, today we are talking about the iconic Charlie Kaufman and Donald Kauffman screenplay starring Nicolas Cage as Charlie Kaufman, Adaptation. So I picked this one. Kendall, why'd you pick this one? Well, a little while back, I think I mentioned this when we did Face Off, but a little while back I was trying to watch not all of Nicolas Cage's movies because he did a lot of movies, but I was trying to watch a lot of Nicolas Cage movies. Just like, I don't know, sometimes I like doing deep dive into an actor and like figure out like, you know, obviously Nicolas Cage is a weird guy and he kind of has a reputation for being a weird guy, but also like, I feel like he's the kind of guy that's like, you see him and it's like, you know, that he was actually like legitimately good in some things or else he wouldn't get this much work. You know, he's not just a self-parody or whatever. And so I watched a bunch of his stuff and he really does, like, he can play weird characters, but it's not always the same weird character. And it's really cool. And this one is one of the movies that is kind of thought of to be one of his best performances.
Well, and in this one, he plays two weird characters.
And he plays two very different, very interesting characters. I didn't know when I first watched it, but I did like being John Malkovich when I saw it back in the day. And I saw another Charlie Kaufman movie a year or two ago, or a couple years ago. It was probably 5 years ago because time is a flat circle. That was interesting, and I don't know. I think this is an interesting movie, and I thought it would be interesting to hear what you guys thought about it. It's a shame. This is another one that it's a shame Jeff's not on because I feel like Jeff would have a lot to say. So Nick, this was a movie that I figured was exactly like every movie that you ever watch, completely right up your alley. What were your impressions?
All right, so I have a short version, which I will go into first, and then I have a longer version. And my short version is, why the fuck are you wasting my precious 2 hours with your movie? I don't have any use for it. I don't have any bloody use for it.
Wow, Nick, you are clipping very, very bad right now. Can you turn it?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, but yes, that's fine.
Oh, okay,
that is acceptable. That was an acceptable line for you to say, and I have some thoughts about that scene too.
Okay, so this is kind of physically painful for me to watch. I think I identify with Charlie Kaufman a little too much, especially at the beginning where he's got the whole sort of ADHD trying to like focus and get stuff done on it. And the entire watching the movie to me, I think, was almost as much of a struggle as it was for the character to live the movie. It probably took me 4 hours to get through this movie based on how many times I kept stopping it and like just wanting to stop and like then having to psych myself up to continue watching this film.
That bad.
It was absolutely a miserable experience that I do not recommend to anyone who does not essentially love these sorts of movies, works in the film industry, does screenplay and stuff like that, or somehow spends hundreds of hours of their life watching movies and podcasting about them for some ungodly reason. That said, it's super hard to watch this film, especially at the beginning. It is. Oh, it's like trying to work yourself up to like a phone call that you've been putting off for a year that you don't want to make. It is exquisitely awful, and they do such a good job in making it painful. And part of the problem is they've got me in a box here, because if I talk about why I don't like this movie and how self-indulgent and bullshit it is and how much I hate this movie, they've already agreed with me. They hate this movie. I don't know where to go from here. I'm completely trapped.
Okay.
And the longer I had an absolutely miserable experience. The last half hour actually was the part that I was able to sit through and not stop at all. So it kind of coming back to the stupid Hollywood ending was the part that I found most watchable.
It kind of goes off the rails there at the end.
Yeah, just. But I had a point. And I've lost it. But but essentially, the longer I think about it afterwards, the more I'm like, I hate you, Ron Burgundy, but goddamn it, do I respect you? They did a great job, like doing everything. I just hate it, and that's okay.
All right, Ian. What's your first reaction?
I have a more measured response, maybe
That's fair.
than Nick here.
It would be hard not to.
Yeah. So obviously weird movie. Of course, I was thinking about being John Malkovich. It feels a lot kind of bizarre like that movie. I felt like this is a 1999 movie, but in 2002. You know how all 1999 movies have like this kind of weird feel to them, and they're like very inventive and creative and kind of outside the box of like conventional film. And I feel like that's a thing. But of course, being John Malkovich was his 1999 film, so this is just like the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I overall thought it was fine. I didn't like love it, nor did I hate it. Ultimately, like unlike Nick, so one of Nick's complaints is that like he relates too much to Charlie Kaufman. For me, like I just kind of don't relate to him. I don't have the same, I don't have the same worldview as him. I don't have imposter syndrome. I'm not an artist. I'm not particularly an artist. Like I might do some writing or something, but I'm not like a famous writer that has to perform to publish his next work or anything like that. So my kind of inability to relate to him, I think, kind of limited the appeal of the character in the film for me.
Okay, so here's my thoughts. First of all, the film itself overall, I think, is really interesting. I think it has strengths and weaknesses. Like, it is not one of the greatest films ever. I think it's a film where Nicolas Cage's performance is like really good, and a couple of the characters are really interesting and really compelling. The film as a whole is a little disjointed, and some of the messages like I'm grappling with. But also it's a really interesting film.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting.
And
like all the, you might consider it kind of it's a little bit self-indulgent with how self-referential it is, but also that makes it kind of interesting to like see what they're doing with it. Like they're saying that things are true about it, and then they become true about it later.
Right.
Like how it's like shifting genres and
like he says at the beginning, he's like, I don't want it to like turn out that the orchid is actually a poppy, and there's a drugs and a violent car chase at the end and a shootout at the end. I don't. And she says, well, we were thinking maybe that she could fall in love, that Suzanne Orlean could fall in love with the guy,
LaRoche.
Bobby,
Yeah.
I think, or Rush, whatever, I don't know, whatever.
LaRoche.
John Rush, John, John. And he's like, no, why can't it just be about flowers? And the interesting thing to me is that it's not real. Like it doesn't spend very much time on flowers. Like he wants it to be a movie about flowers, and there are a couple of scenes, but like you could really lean into the flowers more. I really like, and I mean, yes, I did like, the scenes where he's like literally saying, okay, opening shot, it's the beginning of the universe, and and he describes the opening scene, and the end where he's like,
already seen that shot,
where he's like, I've thought of the ending of the script. It's gonna be me saying that I thought of the ending of the script, and there's.
I just loved the whole. McKee said no voiceovers. Fuck McKee.
Right. Well, that guy is really interesting, and I've got a lot of thoughts on him, which I'll get to in a second. But I have a lot. I should have taken notes or something, because I'm going to be all over the place. There's so many thoughts I have on this. So, but like the meta, the first thing with the meta narrative of like him, literally writing the movie that he's writing is, I'm sure that like a lot. First of all, I wish that I did listen to an interview with Suzanne Orlean about what she thinks about this movie. She thinks it's very interesting. Although her first reaction when she flipped to a page of her appearing on a porn site was that she was not a fan. She told them that she actually called them and said they couldn't use her name. And then they said the way that they convinced her to be able to use her name in it is they said, well, how will you feel if there's a picture of your book with somebody else's name as the author? And so that's how they got her on that. But anyway, but the meta narrative of, especially in when you get to the last act, where you can really tell that it's very obvious that they're deviating from the source material, and that like to any extent that this was based on a true story, it is obviously no longer based on a true story. It's like, this is all, we know that this is Charlie Kaufman's writing on, based on the book, based on his, I mean, I'm sure that there's some element of it that is based on him struggling to adapt the, like, some of this stuff is probably true. So like some of the scenes of him being frustrated writing are probably actually true, but it's like, which things are true? Is he really as schlubby as he thinks he is? Even something as simple as like, they call him fat for the whole movie, like over and over again. And it's like, I'm like, Nicolas Cage isn't really all that fat. Like he's not good looking in this movie, but he's not, he's not obese. And, at the end he says, I wonder who they'll get to play me. Hopefully somebody not too fat. And so it's like, or like the, that last scene with his sort of girlfriend, love interest type, where they both tell each other that they love each other and go apart. And it's kind of it's a very movie ending. And it's like, oh, I thought at the ending it's going to be, and so it's like, did that scene, did that moment really happen? It's that unreliable narrator thing, how much of this is really true, and how much of this is, and that, that.
And Charlie Kaufman isn't bald or fat, right?
Yeah, I just looked him up. He's not.
He's not.
No.
Nope. I don't know. I've only seen, I've never seen movies where he was in front of the camera.
Yeah, I think I was just looking at some Google image interview pictures more than anything, but it doesn't seem to be.
He's got a fairly lustrous head of hair, if I do say so.
Yeah.
He does, so kind of looks like Seth Green. He does kind of look like, I can see how And I mean, also like those are who knows what he looked like 20 years ago or when those pictures are
Right.
from, but
Right.
I could see how Nicolas Cage is like a schlubbier version of him. And also maybe, I mean, maybe he was 1999 fat, which is like, if you're not 1999 fat in Hollywood is probably if you're over 130 pounds, then you feel like you're fat. But yeah. So then, so you've got that element, and then yeah, you've got the Charlie Kaufman versus Donald Kaufman thing, which I feel like both of those characters are different sides of me and different like bipolarness. Because I definitely get, you were talking about the ADHD elements. That his brother Donald Kaufman just one day wakes up and decides that his entire personality is going to be that he's a screenwriter when he hasn't written a page in his life. That is an ADHD, hyperfixation thing. Also, John talks about how, he was into turtles, and then one day he was like, fuck turtles, and then he was into fish, and then one day he was like, I'm never sticking in my foot in the ocean again. Now it's all plants. And then, by the end, he's into the internet and pornography. And like, he's even talking about how much he loves computers as they're walking through the swamp, trying to find the ghost orchid.
Not because he wanted to go to the swamp, but because she wanted to go to the swamp.
But like his, his one track mind, but the Donald and the Charlie Kaufman both, and cause like you're simultaneous, like Donald is like, okay, well he's looking for that one answer, that one easy answer. So he goes to the seminar, and Charlie tells him, there's not one answer, and the people that do those kinds of seminars are hack scammers. They're looking for desperate people. They're cult leaders and everything. And it's like, I know that, but I also listen to TED Talks so that I can figure out what the answer is, and like, so there's this element of, and then he finally goes to the seminar and, kind of gets convinced by a speech that like I totally disagreed with. I think because the idea is, he wants to make a movie that is like a character study, where things don't really happen, where people don't really change, where it's more about relating to the characters than it is about seeing those characters overcome some obstacle. And because that's more like real life. And he's like, well, no, on every day somebody, a child is murdered on the steps of a church, and somebody gives their life for somebody, and somebody murders somebody else for. It's like, yes, maybe somebody does that, but that doesn't happen to me every day, and so maybe not every movie needs to reflect that. Now the interesting thing is that he ultimately fails at trying to write that movie and ends up in the final act leaning into the Hollywood cliches. And so it's like I just want to have there's this idealism of the artist. It's like, I just want to be able to, put my vision, have my vision come to reality. But then, like, even when you're given that opportunity, it still sucks. He doesn't write the movie about the flowers, and even the parts, he can't. He says he wants to write about the flowers, and he wants to, make that book come alive, and he just doesn't. I don't know. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. He feels so strongly about it that he's like turning down what is essentially the plot right at the beginning.
Right.
Just kind of gives up at the end.
Well, first idea, best idea, right? Yeah. Like if you sometimes you think of something, and you're like, well, no, I can do. You think of an idea, and you're like, well, I can do better than that, and then you're stuck on that idea, and you can't ever moved past it. So Nick, would you have watched The 3?
The 3? Would I have watched The 3? I don't really like horror movies, so probably not. But if you had picked it, I guess I would have. I mean, I've never said no to a movie.
It seems like more of a thriller than a horror movie, though, doesn't it?
I guess, but so is like Silence of the Lambs and stuff, and I haven't really watched that.
Yeah.
I don't choose to watch that sort of thing on my own generally.
I guess it's like some cheat. It's hard to know that because he's like, well, how they're all three the same person? How are you going to film that? And he's like, with camera tricks. And it's like
trick photography.
I did spend a little while thinking about that. Like, how would you do that? And it's rough.
I mean, you do it like Fight Club. You'd have a different actor.
I'm sure there's specific movies that they've done.
I mean, you would have one actor playing the killer, one actor playing the woman, and one actor playing the cop, and just like they would never share a scene. Now it would be very tricky to. You're right. It would be very tricky to have
the horse chase and the motorcycle scene.
Right.
Difficult.
Yes. The chase scene. I think there were definitely some ideas that would have been a challenge. Although if it was just, there's also like an element of like they could share a scene because one of them would be hallucinating the other. Because that's Fight Club. Any scene that you have. Spoiler alert for Fight Club. I hope you got Nick. Have you seen Fight Club? I feel like you probably haven't seen Fight Club.
I know what happens in Fight Club. I have not actually watched Fight Club all the way.
Okay,
dude.
that should be something to pick.
You don't have to do that.
Another 1999 movie.
No, Fight Club's a good movie. It's not like I mean, first of all, I mean it's trite to say that people misunderstand it. Like that's like the biggest cliche ever. That it is not pro toxic masculinity the way that people responded to it. But I rewatched it recently. It's pretty good. It kind of falls apart in the third act a little bit, but it's pretty good. And like anytime Edward Norton and Brad Pitt are in a scene together, Edward Norton is just hallucinating him. Even though he has this personality, you could do it. Yeah, there's probably some scenes that would, but that's where you get Spike Jonze to film it. And I mean, so actually, speaking of split personalities, when you were watching this, was there any point that you thought Donald Kauffman was
for a while? Yeah, for a while at the beginning. Like I'm like, oh,
he starts talking to other people.
Yeah. At least for the first the scene where he's like lying on the ground and talking to him and stuff. I'm like, oh, he's like a foil, figment of his imagination type.
Because the first handful of times you see him, he's alone. He's alone in the house with Charlie in their house.
Yeah,
and Molly half watched it with me for parts of it, and that first scene, she was like, "Oh, is that his split personality?" And I had forgotten that. I think that I thought that too when I first saw it was that he was a hallucination or a split personality or something. So how would you guys feel if you wrote a book and then this was the adaptation of that book, and you were Susan Orlean's character, or
you write a book.
You were the real person of Susan Orlean, and they treated you the way they treated her character.
You write a book that's at least critically, maybe not entirely universally loved, but kind of respected, and then you get to the excited and you're like, they're gonna make a movie out of it. We get real actors and stuff.
They're gonna make a movie and you're gonna be played by Meryl Streep.
Right.
But the entire movie is less about your story and more about the the screenwriter that you haven't met yet making it all about himself.
Right.
I think I would be entertained. I would be amused. Like,
It
to
depends.
see, a fictional
Yeah.
version of myself, like, go off the rails and try to
Mhm.
murder somebody in a swamp, and then, like, there's gators and, like...
I'd like to be portrayed a little more positively than I think they did to Susan Orleans.
Right.
But
Yeah, like because that like actually, I think on first viewing that actually like fully took me out of the experience in the final act, especially where because it's like they were not portraying her, portraying her well, and I mean also like there is something, there is like a gender dynamic thing where it's an adaptation of a book that's written by a woman, and then the movie is about a dude trying to adapt her work and is all set from his perspective, and then she is kind of character assassinated at the end. She's kind of turned into the villain at the end. There's something that doesn't feel quite the best there, but I do think that's where the unreliable narrator thing works, is that like you can very much watch this and be like, okay, this is the moment, that moment when basically when Donald comes to New York or somewhere around there, and they start and the movie completely changes. Like that's the moment where anything resembling reality is completely thrown out the window.
Yeah, it's the second that Donald goes to the interview instead of Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
I think is when that turns. And then of course the was it the who in history would you meet or whatever.
Right. That was a weird moment. Jesus or Einstein. And she also, like, her character completely changes at that moment too. Like
right.
like she just kind of becomes like a floozy arm candy, excited to see her boyfriend kind of character. Like she doesn't have that like journalist, like I feel like she becomes a completely different character there.
Well, and that's because we've left the confines of the book essentially, and we're now in what he imagines her to be, despite having never met her, and that's why she is completely different all of a sudden.
Right.
So I'm just going through Wikipedia here. I'm seeing what Susan Orlean is up to these days. She's like on the writing staff for a television series or something. And if you can follow the link to The Orchid Thief, of course you can read the book if you want. I might be interested in reading the book, just like now I've seen this film and I'm curious what's actually in the book. But the Wikipedia page does point out that the book was adapted by Charlie Kauffman for a Spike Jonze film adaptation. You could argue that it was adapted. I don't know if it was really adapted.
Well, I think because that's the other thing, was like what was actually adapted, and I think that most of the stuff that was the flashback of 3 years ago, where it was her in the courtroom and her interviewing him and everything and stuff. I think most of that stuff was probably like straight, a straight adaptation, where and then obviously the stuff of him writing it was less so.
Right.
And then
because the book is about the arrest of LaRoche for poaching rare orchids. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's a few scenes of
that part must have been in there. Yeah.
But I think his point in the film, and the other thing that I would not be surprised if I was like if it was my book and they were adapting it, reading a negative review of the book from New York Times, that in the movie, that would be rough. But the idea is that there's just not enough in the book because the book is an article that was expanded out into a book. So it's already stretched as thin as it can be. There's not necessarily 2 hours of meat to tell. And so, that's where I think they were able to, theoretically they were able to tell, a good chunk of the story in those handful of scenes that were, it's very, very interesting. Trying to think, because I feel like there was other stuff, but yeah, I do think I just coming back to the the idea of I do think it's really interesting coming back to the idea of like of trying to make something special and unique and failing at it and ending up kind of selling out is such an interesting idea. And especially because like, his brother makes stuff. It seems like the sense is that the three like actually is real good, which I think is interesting. Like, it's not just like, it's not.
I mean, it's hard to say. Like, did he mean in did Charlie mean in the context of the film that three is the sort of film that Hollywood likes but isn't actually interesting or inventive as a writer at all? In which case, like, maybe it's not good, it's just what people buy up, like as a commentary about like what makes a movie or writing a movie interesting. Or was it actually good, like by some metric?
Right.
Anyway, it sold for a lot, right?
Or was it actually good in the sense that Nick and I would have liked it and you would have hated it and Charlie Kaufman would have hated it?
Yeah, I mean,
because it's everything's all this stuff is subjective, but I didn't get the sense that the guy from Office Space, when he read it, I mean, as shallow and nothing as he is, I didn't get the sense of him just thinking, oh, I can sell this. Like, he said, this is really good. And I think that's
he sold it for not just a little bit of money, but a lot of money.
And I forget the actress that was
because
gonna.
He knew. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I forget the actress. There's the actress that wants to be in it. I forget who it was, but like, it's not just that that this guy is a buffoon that fails his way to the top. Like, he's earnest in his desire to make something interesting, and he doesn't have. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not high art, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's not, that's not high art, but that's still good and entertaining and fun and deserves to be made. And the thing of it is he finished his fucking script, and Charlie Kaufman and Charlie could not finish his script. Could not make something that was up to his own standards because his standards were impossible. I agree with you that this is maybe going beyond the text of the film, but I also think that the film leaves a lot of this stuff open to enough interpretation that's what makes it like good and stuff.
Right. There's always something to be said in art for following kind of a more standard process and then adding your own art and originality around the edges, which is kind of what they say that McKee talks about with adding your originality to the genre itself, or whatever they say. There's something to be said for that, where you just add a little bit of originality and then everyone else builds on top of it. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. Not everyone has to reinvent how painting is done. Not everyone has to redefine how screenwriting is done. And it's a lot easier to at least get started.
I mean, like the screenwriting 10 commandments that he puts up, I didn't get all of them, but the first one is thou shalt respect the audience, which is a good thing to do when you're screenwriting, is respect your audience. Now,
number 2 is thou shalt do your research, and that's as far as I got before he tore it up. Yeah.
I really hope that my internet's not going down because Nick is frozen.
No?
He's
I'm
not
still
frozen
here.
for me. He's roboting a little bit.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Cool. So maybe it's Nick's fault then.
Weather's getting a little bad down here, I think, but
That's okay. That's okay. We're
His recording should be fine.
yeah. Totally.
should be
Totally.
fine.
But I mean I think that the thing is with it's like, yes, those people who have like the answer, who claim to have the answer, or self-help books or TED Talks or whatever, or the YouTube gurus or whatever, TikTok gurus, a lot of times they are just spouting nonsense. But I do actually think that there is a situation where if like if you know how to write and you just need some some guidelines to kind of focus your writing a little bit, then maybe there is something of note there. If even though I thought that whole speech about you wasted my 2 hours is complete utter nonsense, that was the thing that Charlie needed to hear to get him out of that rut. And
right, the most important thing is to get those words on the page, to take that next
right,
to draw that next line, to do that next thing, to paint that next mini. That's the most important thing when you're creating. Just keep going.
yeah, totally. And like in the context of a movie, it's like, you're the screenwriter. I mean, yes, you want it to be as good as it can possibly be, but I mean, this movie isn't just good because Charlie Kaufman wrote it. It's also good because Spike Jonze directed it. It's also good because Nick Cage and Meryl Streep had great performances. There's so many more people who are gonna build off of the foundation that you've got there. So yeah, sometimes you just need to get it, and also sometimes you need to get it on paper so that you can then give it a second pass. But if you have the story, but just just I don't know, interesting thoughts, interesting stuff, interesting ideas that make me think about things and inspire me as a creative or whatever. I think that's everything I had to say.
So you said you feel inspired as a creative?
Yeah.
Expand on that.
Okay, inspired. Well, I don't know. Because well, first of all, any movie that I see where somebody has a job where they get to be creative, I'm incredibly jealous of them, no matter how miserable they are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I see him struggling with the same kinds of things that I'm struggling with. I hear him saying the same self-defeative things that I say that are self-defeative, and I'm able to hear when it comes from somebody else. Then I'm able to be like, oh, that guy's insufferable. Oh, maybe I'm insufferable. And I don't know, just throwing ideas at a wall, seeing somebody make something that is even not even from the meta narrative side of things, just seeing a film like this where I get to see, I know what Nicolas Cage sounds like when he's just being Nicolas Cage, and he doesn't sound like that character, and seeing him doing two different performances, there's just like a layer of excellence there that just and just interesting. I don't know. This film feels like and it throws spaghetti at the wall too. That's the other thing about the creative process that this film does, is there's like the freaking all the time lapse stuff at the beginning and the end. It's just a neat. I mean, some of that stuff is just a neat camera trick that Spike Jonze probably did because he was good at music videos. Spike. I don't know if you guys know Spike Jonze, but he did music videos. He's one of those directors that got his start in music videos, and he has some real cool music videos. There's one where a guy's dancing in it. I forget what it's called, but it's a real good one. We talked about it on That's What We Called Music, but yeah, just
You mean the one where Christopher Walken is just dancing the whole time?
Is that Is that him?
Yeah, he did.
I'm
He
thinking,
did that one. Yeah.
I'm thinking of a different one, but
Okay.
but yes, that is one too. I think, or maybe I'm thinking of that one. I don't know. I feel like there's one where he's. I don't know. I don't feel like looking it up, or well, maybe I'll look it up. But Spike Jones music videos. Music videos directed by Spike Jones. He did a lot of them. He directed the Buddy Holly music video.
Several Beastie Boys.
And Island in the Sun.
What else we got here?
I don't know the Island in the Sun music video. The Buddy Holly music video is real good. What? Well, Weapon of Choice is the one that's Christopher Walken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's, I don't know. I feel like there's another one that, I mean, obviously he did lots of music videos, so probably there's another one that I'm thinking of, but I don't remember what it is. But that's okay. But yes, he did Weapon of Choice, which is a good one too. Praise You. That's what it is. It was Praise You. That was the one that I remembered.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Yeah, shot guerrilla style on location without obtaining permission from the owners of the property. In front of puzzled onlookers outside the Foxbrun Theater in Westwood, Los Angeles, a heavily disguised Jones and the dance group acting as a flash mob dance to Praise You. Yeah, I remember that. Okay. But yeah, but I don't know, there's just like lots of cool things in and it's just, I don't know. It's and the meta stuff, just kind of getting thinking about the creative process. I don't even also like I want a typewriter. I don't know where I would put it. I don't know that I would really be productive in using it. I don't even know how people write with a typewriter because like as soon as it's like very like it feels very first drafty. Like if you make any mistakes, you have to throw the page away or like white out it, I guess. But yeah. I still want
white strips that you'd have to type over it perfectly.
Yeah, I want a typewriter.
And then once you're done, of course, you need the whole thing digitally, so you gotta type it again.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah, I don't think I would. I mean, I'm not writing any novels. When I do writing, that's an advantage of songwriting. Is it's only 16 lines, so it's pretty quick to type up lyrics. But
sure, you could type a song on a typewriter, or you could take up letter correspondence with somebody.
Right. That's true. Oh yeah, that's true. Letter correspondence. Yeah.
Learn that calligraphy.
I think it was David Sedaris. I read one of his books that was like he wrote it like during the transition between like when people would write with typewriters and people would write with computers. And he said that what he liked about writing with typewriters is that you would end the day with a basket, with a wastebasket full of rejected ideas, and as opposed to just when you're on the computer and you just delete them, because you'd be able to like prove that you had been working all day.
Sure.
By all the it's probably not the most like good for the planet and stuff, but still I want to type.
But it at least helps you feel like you did something, which
for that matter
is often important.
It says something about Charlie Kaufman's character that he was using a typewriter in 1999. Like, I'm not saying everybody. I mean, but I'm sure there were lots of people that wrote with a typewriter still in 1999, but not everybody.
Not the New York Times.
Probably. Right. Because she has a laptop, right? And probably Donald wrote his script on a laptop too. But yeah. Oh, I also love that moment, and that's again just like spaghetti at the wall, has nothing to do with anything else. I love that moment where Donald's like, "My love." He's talking about like being made fun of in in middle school, and it's like, well,
At
why
the
were
end.
you not upset about that? And he's like, well, because I loved her. It didn't have anything to do with, that was none of her business, or it was my love to give. And that's just like such a, I mean, of course he's about to get murdered, so he's got to be they've got to make him a good guy, but it's such an interesting idea of like, especially in the context of, when you're a little kid and you have like, hormonal crushes or whatever. And it's like, really, so many of those crushes when you're a kid are about, you're not even thinking about the other person. You're just thinking about like wanting something or whatever. But like he actually was, not really thinking about himself or only thinking about the positive feelings that he was having towards someone. I like that. I like that idea.
Right. It's not that he didn't understand.
Right.
I think is the most important thing.
Yes. Yeah. And that's true too. Yeah. It's not that he didn't understand. It's that he didn't care.
Right.
Which I've been accused of being that guy, of the guy that doesn't care. And when I was actually the guy that didn't understand. A lot of times people think I'm being sarcastic, but really I'm just wrong. Or I just read the room wrong. But yeah, so I think yeah. So 10 minutes ago I said that was all I had, and then you guys got me talking more. You guys have any final thoughts on this?
See, the last act makes the film. I just love the McKee quotes, just because, and the meta stuff, especially a lot of the stuff that happens early before you quite realize that we're going to be doing a lot of meta stuff that really becomes important and comes back to. And I think just the quantity of it and how much like it actually like works. Like it would have been really easy to do like one or two meta things and be like, oh, okay, I'm meta. But literally almost everything in the movie is a commentary on that in some way. And that really helps me like kind of, it's really weird to me to enjoy thinking about a movie more than the absolutely miserable experience I had watching the movie. I'm not entirely used to that. I don't know if I like it. I think I'm gonna remember this movie more fondly than I did even an hour ago. Like the longer the time passes between having seen this film, the more I'm going to like it.
Right.
And even if it's full of voiceovers and flaccid sloppy writing, which I love as a line.
I heard an idea probably 6 months ago on a podcast that there's 3 types of fun. There's fun where it's fun when you're doing it and fun later. There's fun. There's things that are fun just now, but not really that fun later. And then there's things that are no fun now, but then fun to think about or fun to talk about in the future. And so I think that's kind of what you're getting at, where this is definitely one of those movies that sticks with you. Even if in your initial reaction, even if it wasn't like the most enjoyable thing to watch, I think the fact that it's so meta and yet not wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like it respects the audience in that sense. Like it isn't, it literally says the movie ends by me saying the movie ends, but it's not Deadpool. He's not literally breaking the fourth wall and talking to the audience. You feel like you are reading the script you're watching the movie of the script that he's writing in the movie. It pulls it off in a way that a lot of movies wouldn't be able to, or would be insufferable if they did. And it's only a little bit insufferable. I think most of the insufferableness is intentional.
Right. It gets some points for calling itself insufferable and self-indulgent and all that crap.
Right. Yeah, but it's not. I think it's not ashamed of its self-indulgence.
It knows what it is.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like about self-indulgence, right? It like lampshades itself, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Which is a fine line. It gets away with it. About it. Like it is.
Yeah.
They could have easily have gone one way or the other too far, and I think they did.
Yeah. Overall, I'm gonna say, like, yeah, I think he did a fine job. I think this movie should exist. I'm glad that it does exist and that it got made, right? With these themes, like he went out there and he did a thing, and the thing is kind of interesting and cool. Even if like it's not perfect and there are some parts of it that could have been a little better. Overall, like I thought it was a good undertaking and a worthwhile movie to see. But is it my new favorite movie? No, it's fine.
No, I almost assuredly will never watch this film again, and
Yeah,
will
yeah. I probably
have
won't see it again.
very great
That's fair to
difficulty
say.
imagining the person that I would recommend this to.
Yeah, I mean,
You'd
anyone
recommend
who
it to
likes
me.
just kind of, I would recommend it to Kendall.
I don't have to. He's already recommended it to himself.
That's true. That's true. I will say it's not as weird as that Charlie Kaufman Netflix movie from a few years ago. I forget what it was called, but there
Well,
was.
and it's not as weird as being John Malkovich either, in my opinion. Being John Malkovich is really weird.
I really need to rewatch Being John Malkovich. I was actually, when I was watching this, I was like, I should have just picked Being John Malkovich, because I haven't seen it since I was like 19.
So there was
I have not
maybe
seen
one
Being John Malkovich.
there was like one point during this movie where I was like, what even is this movie? Right? Yeah, I like got taken out of it. I'm like, what even is going on here? But like Being John Malkovich, that was like every few minutes.
Every 5 minutes, I ask
Like,
myself.
what am I
I
even-
paused and
what am I
asked
even
myself,
watching?
what is this movie and why am I watching it and how much do I hate Kendall right now?
I guess my one other observation about this movie is like it felt kind of long to me. Normally, like I have no problem just going straight through a 2-hour movie. I never look at my watch. I never look at the clock. This time I was like, well, I'm only an hour into this movie. There's another hour of this movie. I was just kind of surprised. I think kind of a lot happens, and again, like it feels like the different subplots are all kind of going, and some of them are nearing completion sooner than others, and then it of course introduces the whole third act,
Yeah.
and all of its lunacy.
Yeah, the first hour felt a lot rougher than even the hour to an hour and a half mark.
I think what it is that it's a 90-minute movie and then a 30-minute movie.
Yeah.
And so yeah, because I had to break it up into 2 parts, but I was like, when I was on Sunday night, I was like in the worst headspace possible to watch a movie. So I watched half of it Sunday night and half of it Monday night. But I had watched it before. But yeah, like a lot of times, first of all, there are plenty of movies out there that are just a slice of life character study where nobody learns anything and nobody evolves. They're called indie films. And they're all 90 minutes long because of that. Like, so yeah, this film definitely takes its time. And then the third act is a full like it's not just one scene. Like you could have had, if you wanted to, you could have had as soon as they approach each other, like, Meryl Streep says, wait, you've seen too much. And then she pulls a gun and shoots him. And then there's, like that whole thing. But instead they stretch that out. As we were talking, I think what's interesting is that third act, instead of just saying, instead of saying like movies have to have this action-packed third act and then just like, just phoning it in for that third act, it's like Spike Jonze made a movie, finished the movie. Like they did that stuff. Meryl Streep played the character, even though she was playing a slightly different character. It was done in a believable way. John was the way that they changed his character, was a believable way. Even like they even have that moment where like Charlie's watching them have sex and they confront him and John like realizes that he's the screenwriter and shakes his hand, and like there's even that little scene which could have been in the movie otherwise, but was, I don't know, but it was like a weird scene. It was like they had like a weird scene in there. There was a lot in that final act that if the point had just been you can't make a movie unless it ends in violence. They could have ended it in violence, but instead they made it good and ended it,
Right.
which again
I gotta say,
plays
Chris
into that.
Cooper really earned the Oscar for being John LaRoche in this. I guess.
That's where I think that there is something to the idea that Donald is a good writer, that the Hollywood schlock stuff actually has some merit to it, because they actually take it seriously in the final act.
Right, and there is there is like maybe 40 minutes, I would just spitball in here, of actual like Orchid Thief movie kind of embedded in this other movie. So
yeah, that's true too. Is there's two, you are watching multiple. Yeah, there are multiple movies.
Yeah.
All right, so it's Nick's turn next, right?
It is my turn next, and I need something that is a bit lighter, a bit more palate cleansing, and might as well go trendy. So we are going for K-pop Demon Hunter from Netflix.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That's interesting. I just canceled my Netflix subscription. But that's okay. We're gonna bring it back in a couple weeks for Wednesday. So
I was gonna say there is actually some theaters, I think, specifically this weekend doing K-pop Demon Hunter in theaters. Although I think it's more of a sing-along thing, so maybe not the best first watch.
Well, I'm not going to be going to any movies this weekend. I don't think it is the weekend of Star Wars CCG Nationals. So when I post this episode in December, you guys will know when we recorded. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We will find out what we think of K-pop Demon Hunter next time on the KendallCast Movie Roundtable. We have 42 players confirmed for Nationals this weekend. This podcast is a production of the KendallCast Podcast Network. You can support the show for just $2 a month at patreon.com/KendallCast or make a direct donation through the PayPal link at kendallcast.ninja. Every little bit helps.